So you want to move to the Lone Star State, and specifically San Antonio, Texas. Well, in this video, we're going to take you on a sometimes boring subject, but it needs to be talked about. And we're talking about the HOAs today.
So HOAs can be your best friend, or you can absolutely hate them. But if you're moving down here, you're going to have to know you're probably going to go into a neighborhood that has an HOA. So today we're going to dive a little deep, not really too deep, but just give you some information you need to know before you sign on a contract for a home in an HOA. We're going to dive into that topic
right now.
If this is your first time in our channel, welcome. Please make sure that you subscribe, tap the bell, and that way you'll receive notifications on the changing market in and around the San Antonio area.
We're Brian and Brenda Jones, the proud owners of Lone Star Home Realty. You get the Lone Star?
We love our Lone Star.
We love Lone Star. We get calls from people like you every day. So if you're moving in 3 days or 3 months or sometime next year, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help you set you up on a Zoom and figure out what needs to happen to get you here.
All of our information is in the box below. And like you said, you can call us, text us, email us, or sign up for a Zoom. Whichever is easiest for you, we'll make it work on our end. We would love to chat with you and help you make a smooth move to the Lone Star State. Let's talk about HOAs. Yay! Here we go.
So here we are talking about HOAs. Got to have some personal information here, though, to put it out there. Brenda used to belong to the HOA board. She volunteered for the HOA board.
I know, I did for 4 years or so.
Yeah, it seemed like a lifetime.
It was a long time.
Anyway, what we want to talk to you guys about is, to start off, what is an HOA? Basically, it's a homeowners association, and sometimes there's a property owners association. We're going to tell you the difference between those two. So a homeowners association is just a board of a neighborhood that oversees the rules and covenants of the neighborhood and makes sure the covenants are enforced.
The board is generally made up of your neighbors. So once you get into a neighborhood, they'll have elections, or typically for 1 year rotations, and they have to be voted on by the neighborhood to become part of the board. So the people that are running the HOA of your neighborhood are typically your neighbors. You may or may not know them.
Yep. And also, when you move into a neighborhood, sometimes the HOA is mandatory, and other times it's voluntary. And so the mandatory HOAs, when you buy your house, you're automatically in the membership.
Yep. You don't have a choice in the matter.
You do not have a choice. And the voluntary HOAs typically have to do with a pool in the neighborhood that you have to belong to the HOA or the POA to belong to use the pool.
Or the sporting or equipment or something to that, whatever amenities that they have.
What are some of the pros of?
There's definitely pros of living in an HOA. I think the first one is they're going to protect the value of your property. They're going to make sure that your neighbor doesn't tear down a home and build or put up a manufactured home or put an RV in their backyard. So they're also going to make sure that your house isn't painted purple or gold yellow, so there's all kinds of different rules that the HOA sets up in their covenants that are available to you, but they definitely help maintain the standards of the neighborhood and make sure that everybody is keeping their properties up to date.
Now there are some neighborhoods we've been in. The homes are relatively new, but the developer decided not to form an HOA. And so we've gone down to the streets, and there's either a boat or an RV in everybody's driveway. And it makes the neighborhood look trashy.
Or like a car up on blocks because they're fixing it.
Yep.
So those are the kind of things that the HOA really does help protect, make sure that the yards are well kept and that people aren't letting the weeds grow to be 5 feet tall or, just out of control landscaping. So those are the true benefits. Now, they also will enforce like having amenities. So they're helping maintain. A lot of times the HOA, the money that's going into the HOA is used to maintain the landscaping or maintain the pool and the upkeep of that, or the walls, or any kind of fitness centers. You see a lot of those in the newer developments now. Any of the amenities that are available, insurance for the property. Yeah. So a lot of things that people that move into the neighborhood don't even realize is an issue or a risk for the neighborhood because there is an HOA. Those are things that the HOA does help do to protect the property values and the residents that are living in the neighborhood.
That's pretty much the main use or need for an HOA, is to protect home values. I mean, that's their pretty much their one role.
Yeah. Sometimes they can act as a conflict resolution. We never had that issue when I was on the board, but sometimes there's just an issue between two neighbors, like they don't like the fence that you put up, and so the board has to come in and kind of be the mediator between the two neighbors to help you say, okay, is the fence approved? Is it, you're building a 10-foot fence and the rules say you can't have anything higher than an 8-foot fence. Those kind of things that the board sometimes can help you to resolve the issues between the neighbors as well.
What are some of the cons?
Most people hate HOAs.
Yes.
They really do, to be honest.
Think about this, guys. The board, high 90% of the time, are made up of your neighbors. So whoever is on the board lives in the neighborhood. So it's not like it's a group of outsiders. Sometimes it seems like it's a group of outsiders that are just running amok and handing out citations and notices, but that's not the case. A lot of times HOAs hire management companies, and they're really, sometimes they're really good, and a lot of times they're really, really not so good.
But the management company still reports back to the board. So if you have a good, solid board, they're going to be managing the management company, and they have the final say-so in everything. So the first really big con is you have to pay for an HOA.
Yep.
Sometimes it could be like a minimal amount, depending a lot on the amenities that are available. And sometimes we've seen it as much as $1,200 a year or more. Yeah, depending on what is available. So when you're looking at your budget and you're looking at what you can spend on your monthly expenses and your annual expenses, you do have to include the HOA, because that's not going away, and they can put a lien on your home if you fail to pay your HOA dues.
And guys, the HOAs we're talking about are separate from a condominium's property owners association.
These are just residential neighborhoods.
Those are residential subdivisions. Yeah. They all have a fee. Even the voluntary ones, you have to pay a fee to be in the voluntary HOA.
Yeah.
But typically it's very low on a voluntary. Less than $100 a year most of the time.
So they do have a lot of control. They have a lot of control of what you can and you cannot do to your home. You have to apply for an ARC request specifically.
What's an ARC? Architectural Review Committee.
Yeah, that's it. Architecture and ARC. So we have a committee of your neighbors typically that will review your plans. A lot of times you have to submit your survey, which is when we close on a home, we tell you, please know what you did with your survey, because it's a very valuable piece of paper. You're
going to need it if you want to make any significant changes to your property.
So a lot of times they make sure you have your permits in. They're making sure you're following all of the legal rules in order to put a pool in, put a concrete slab in. They're very concerned about, like I said, the painting of your door or an RV in your backyard.
And also, guys, the HOA covenants and deed restrictions and rules typically follow along with city ordinances. There's not a lot of difference sometimes with those. But remember, the HOA only governs the property owners. It has nothing to do with city streets. It has nothing to do with a lot of times it has nothing to do with green spaces, because sometimes those green spaces aren't owned by the HOA.
Right. So it all depends on what the HOA has has the control over.
Right.
But like I said, you can get fined if you don't follow the rules. They can take legal actions against you. There's a lot of different penalties for not playing by the rules. So what else we going to talk about? The rules for the HOA, the rules for the rule followers.
Yes, and that's really coming to view here in Texas recently over the last two or three cycles of the legislature. They've really started to put some limits on HOAs and POAs and even condominium HOAs.
Yeah.
So
it's tightening it up on the HOA so they don't have just carte blanche or whatever they want to do.
It was out of control.
Yeah, so they wrangled them in a bit with a little bit more control.
Right. So in Texas, the HOAs are governed by the Texas Property Code, Chapter 209. I know that's very exciting.
Woohoo! Yay!
You can look that up. You really can look that up on Google, and it'll show it to you. They have to be transparent. That's one of the big things that coming out of the laws is the HOAs have to be more transparent in fees they levy, the fines they levy. They have to be really transparent on the budget that they provide to the residents. They have to. What else do they have to?
They have to make sure that all of the agendas for the meetings are out in a certain period of time. They also, if you are going to receive a violation because you broke a rule, it has to be sent to you in writing, letting you know that you need to discuss the matter before they can give you a fine. So typically there's a time period that you have to correct the situation or talk to them. But they're very, very strict on making sure everything that you are being fined for has been notified to you in writing. A lot of times it has to be a certified letter. So there's a lot of rules on how they move forward on that.
And one of the things, guys, that in Texas has changed pretty significantly is in your front yard. There is no limitation whatsoever of what you can do with a religious symbol. You can put a 50-foot cross in your front yard.
That was a huge
and
change.
Nobody can say anything about it except maybe the air control. but you can have any kind of religious symbol in the front of your house all day long, all night long, and the HOA can't say anything.
Yeah.
The other thing that they can't restrict is solar panels. They cannot restrict solar panels. If you want to put solar panels on your house, you have to get a city permit, but you don't need the HOA's approval.
Yeah. Same thing with xeriscaping too, because the big thing in Texas is saving water. So xeriscaping is always a good idea. A lot of neighborhoods don't like that. They want you to have beautiful green, lush grass. So they can't put a rule against you for xeriscaping.
So, guys, also, how do you find out about HOAs and what their rules and regulations are?
You can request the HOA document. So if you find a home or a specific neighborhood that you're like, man, I really like the location of this neighborhood. I like the way the homes look in there. I'd be interested in just kind of keeping an eye on that. But, there's an HOA. You can request the HOA docs and you can actually read through the government documents, the covenants, the conditions, the restrictions, everything that they have to supply that to you.
Will put you to sleep.
Yeah. But most of the time you can just kind of zip through it and find the section that really is concerning to you, which is mainly the restrictions and what you can and you cannot do on your property.
And I think just about every HOA or POA has a website as well. And a lot of times they will post the restrictions on the website as well.
Yeah, and sometimes you can request the documents directly through them. So kind of can get easier at points in time.
You can also check the financial health of the HOA because of not able to raise the fees for whatever reason, they may have special assessments. And a lot of times when you buy a new house or a new property, there might be a special assessment that you have to pay before at closing that you don't know about. And sometimes it sneaks up on you and wait, what is this you're explaining to me about a HOA assessment? And sometimes it could be pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, in our house specifically, we have in our neighborhood, there's a brick wall that lines the entire neighborhood of the main streets in it. And it is not disclosed to you when you're buying your house that technically they have put the responsibility of the brick wall on the homeowner until it needs repair. And then you're like,
we own the brick wall.
Yeah, it's ours.
But
we can't do anything with it.
We can't do anything with it. We can't do anything to it.
No.
Can't put anything on it.
No. So it's things like that you really need to dig into. So if there's a major common wall through the neighborhood that is on the property and you're like, oh, wow, this has a beautiful brick wall, or this has a beautiful rock wall, or whatever, my first recommendation to you is who owns the brick wall and what is my responsibility in having it on my property. So those are some things that you need to know that you can, and ask the neighbors. Yeah. If you really like a neighborhood and you're really looking at a house, or maybe you even got a contract and you're in the option period where you're doing the inspections and stuff, walk around and talk to the neighbors that are here, because they're going to tell you the truth about the HOA. They're going to tell you if it's like, yeah, I wouldn't live here again if I was paid to.
Now, to be fair, there are some neighbors you might talk to,
well, yeah,
who have been wronged by the HOA.
Yeah. So don't talk to just one.
Or not, not just wronged by the HOA, but they did wrong. Yeah. And they blame the HOA for what happened.
Or they're constantly doing wrong.
Yes.
There are ones that are problem children.
Yes.
In every neighborhood, I guarantee you.
In every single neighborhood.
So talk to more than one or two or 3 people.
So what are some of the other things that people need to know about an HOA when you're investigating a neighborhood?
Again, just how much are the fees? How often are they due? Some of them are due annually.
Sometimes
some of
monthly.
them are monthly. Some of them are quarterly. So kind of get that breakdown on it. What do the fees cover? And like Brian mentioned, special assessments. Are there any special assessments out there I need to be aware of before I sign on this contract? By getting the documents, make sure you know what the rules are. Know when, or find out when the meetings are. Can the homeowners attend and just listen in? I mean, there's all kinds of things. I mean, I can tell you when I was on the board, we would be so excited when a homeowner actually showed up to the meeting that we were like, yes, please come in and have a seat, because the more people that are involved, a lot of times you get sucked into projects if you show up. But it's a good idea just to go and find out what these people are doing, because they're representing you and you're paying for it.
So there you have it. You got the pros, the cons, what an HOA is, and how to get information on it.
Let's talk about you mentioned the property owners, and we haven't really discussed that.
Yeah. So
what's the difference between
the two? An HOA is typically covering the whole neighborhood, and sometimes in a lot of neighborhoods there's many subdivisions within the development. They may be gated, and you go in there and they have their own property owners association. The HOA typically covers the general grounds, the common areas, the green belts, if there's a green belt and the HOA owns it. They may cover the brick walls or whatever other type of amenities may be in the area. Property owners association is more due for the specific area your home is located in. So it might be a mini subdivision within the development.
So is it possible that you have an HOA and a POA and you have to pay fees for both of them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 2 fees.
Yeah. So just be very, very cognizant of that when you're looking at
Ask questions.
Ask questions. Don't just go,
if you come into a subdivision and you see all these homes and then you go right into a gated section of a subdivision, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be a property owners association in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so make sure you ask questions and find out exactly what you're going to be paying for. So should you buy in a neighborhood? We have had clients that absolutely refuse to even consider looking at a home in an HOA. In my opinion, HOAs are good, depending on what you want to do with the property.
Right.
Obviously, if I want to raise chickens in my backyard, they're going to be like, yeah, no, that ain't happening.
We've seen neighborhoods, guys, that with no HOA, and they look amazingly beautiful, well kept. The homeowners take care of their properties.
Sense of pride,
just beautiful, and they're not brand new neighborhoods.
No,
they're older neighborhoods. And then you see almost brand new neighborhoods with no HOA, and they're torn up, and they just look trashy because there's nobody's policing it.
Yeah. So just make sure when you're looking at different neighborhoods, do your research, ask your questions, Make sure that it's a right fit for you, because as you know, buying a home is it's not an easy thing. It's time consuming, it's expensive,
Yeah.
it's stressful. Moving is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times when people get into an HOA neighborhood and kind of get settled in, and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not living here. And then you have to start all over again. So just do your research, know what you're getting into. Sometimes they're absolutely wonderful and they're just things you got to put up with, and I don't want to mess with that. But when you look at the overall benefit of having an HOA, it definitely outweighs the stressful parts of it.
So guys, comment below. Let us know what your experience is with an HOA. We'd love to hear it.
If you've been on the board before, because that's a stressful, headachy kind of a job
The good,
that you get paid nothing for.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Just let us hear it. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're planning a move to the San Antonio area, we'd be more than happy to help you. So, like I said, comment below and sign up for a Zoom.
Make
Our
sure you
information's
subscribe.
in the box.
Yeah,
Subscribe, tap the bell, and get the notifications when it happens. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Take care.